Network, the whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be, so prove them and still amount to something. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the KeithAndrewNetwork. We are 24 hours away from Halloween. This is episode 964. That is right, the one and only 964 here on the KeithAndrewNetwork. We're marching towards our goal of 1,000 episodes. Today, we have two amazing guests. You're going to hear from them when we take the commercial break. But one thing I want to say, if you're watching this video, please leave a comment, like, subscribe. With your support, the KeithAndrewNetwork can grow all over social media. So this will be played Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and all social media. So like, comment, because I would love to interact with you. Our guests would love to hear your feedback and what you think about the episodes. So when we come back, we have a little announcement. Oh, let's hear from our guests.
Hi, I'm Irena Huljak. I was just introduced by Keith Andrew. I love his stuff. I love his show. Definitely subscribe, and thank you so much for having me.
Hi, my name is Matthew Tangeman. I was just interviewed by Keith Andrew for his YouTube show, and it's like I think what he's doing here is a really good show, and I can't wait for you guys to watch it.
We're back from the commercial break, and the first question I want to ask is for the beautiful and talented Irena. Thank you for being a guest on the KeithAndrewNetwork. Welcome.
Oh my gosh, that's a great introduction. Thank you. My name is, this is hard to see on paper. It's Irena Huljak, and I am really happy to be here on your show. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much for this invitation.
No, absolutely, and it makes it easier. You're box one and Matt's box two. And Matt, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm Matt Tangeman, filmmaker, and I'm just happy to be on the network and ready to get going.
No, absolutely. The one thing I really thought, and think it's really amazing, Matt, that you are an award-winning producer and screenwriter. I do have some ideas for you off the air. And also, going back to box one, you are a director and acting coach. I think that's really amazing.
Thank you so much.
So I'm going to start off with a different way. Usually I do icebreakers, but let's just shake it up. Let's have some fun. So the first question is for box number one. Have you ever worked with people with disabilities? And sounds like an oxymoron. Are you willing to work with people with disabilities, and have you worked with people with disabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. It's lovely. I am a director, and I have produced, and this has come into my life recently. I do a lot of writing, but the last 20 years I've done mainly acting. So I've worked with those who have actually a learning disability. I myself have a learning disability. I have dyslexia, and so that's the writing has been really interesting. And as an artist, I also have taught English and ESL, and also I've worked with young children who have dysgraphia. So both in the classroom, and then I've had them actually on stage or in front of the camera, for sure.
No, it's funny we should be on subject about disabilities. For my show, I try to keep it like a casual show, like Bill Maher, Bill O'Reilly, Kobe O'Brien, Jimmy Fallon. I like it to keep it not a copy-paste material, but I like it to be spontaneous and different. My thing about my disability is I learn at a slower pace, and because of that, I fall under spectrum of being retarded. So that's why I look at it saying, how can I approach the situation, but make it easier for me, but at the same time making it professional, saying, okay, he really wants to take it seriously, and there's some things he might work at, but it's a professional show, if that makes any sense. When you have a disability, you want to feel comfortable, but at the same time, show people that you're confident enough that you can do the job.
I really agree with that. I think that from my journey, I really relate to the fact that cold reading or auditions were at one point really painful. And it doesn't mean that I couldn't do them. I just had to figure out how to do them. That I was always pre-prepared. And I think we just live in a world that has certain constructs that if you don't fit them in a certain way, there can be some judgment around that. But I was learning how to really practice beforehand. I had to warm up my brain, I think, and have things set before me, and just be conscious of whether it was comfortable enough to talk to somebody to say that I was dyslexic, and that they felt safe enough to still hire me. I always did the job well, but yeah, it's a different. There's just different things in place to get that going, for sure.
I agree with you. What about Box 2? Have you worked with people with disabilities, and are you willing to work with people with disabilities?
Oh, of course. It's like I've worked with people in the past. Like I'm only 25, so I've in terms of working with people with disabilities, during school and everything, I was around people with disabilities all the time. I myself am on the autism spectrum. I actually have ADD, and it's one of those things where it's like I'm around people who have disabilities pretty much all the time, and as far as working with them, depending on what the disability is, I always try and accommodate that person with that certain disability. And it's like I have no problem with pretty much anyone, no matter what their disability is.
I agree with you 100%. It's all about giving people an opportunity and not judging a book by its cover. Now that we got the big elephant out of the room, now we can actually go to the fun subjects. One thing I want to talk to you about, Box 2, is about you mentioned, and I mentioned in the beginning, that you are an award-winning screenwriter and director. In a couple of minutes, I will pass it over to both of you so I can interact with each other, because both of you are directors. But the main title I want to focus on is award-winning. Who told you you were award-winning, and tell us a little about that story?
Well, if we're going with me first, as far as me, I'm an award-nominated writer. It's like I haven't won any awards for writing yet, but I should be hearing back from a certain film festival in the next couple days on whether or not if the one script I submitted should be, hearing from that. But I am an award-winning producer and visual effects artist. And the award that we won, is for this film I co-produced called The Raker House. It's the first film that I am on as a producer, and it's the first film under my production company, TV Productions. And it was a co-production with 11 O'Clock Productions down in Atlanta. And it's a horror film, and we won 3 awards that night. At the New Jersey Film Awards last month. We won for Best Actress, Best Visual Effects, which I co-won with the director, and then we also won Best Narrative Feature, which, the biggest award of the night. So, and it's the first film award I've actually won specifically. But yeah, it's like it was just this huge effort, and the fact that we won the awards was just mind-boggling. We were so happy.
Well, the next question I want to ask you, actually, let's have a little fun, because I'm always changing up the format, because I don't want every episode to be a copy and paste. But I want you two to be more interactive. So that's why I brought both of you together, because you are directors. Now, I'm going to put both of you in the hot seat. I want you to use me for an example. Say, Keith, we're going to direct you in a new project, and maybe you will, not just thrown out there.
Yeah.
If you guys were my directors, and then you can interact with each other, ask each other questions afterwards. If you were my directors on the Keith Andrew Network, would there be anything you want to change, anything you want to improve? In box one, we're going to start off with you.
If I were to direct this show,
yes.
That's like interesting. There's always room for improvement. First thought, best thought is I don't know.
Well, top 10 Spitfire. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What can I improve on? I want you to be brutally honest.
Well, if we're going on things that could be improved on and things that, I mean, pretty much for any of us as filmmakers or broadcasting, etc., anything can be improved. In the case of where I am right now and what I'm using, it's just a simple webcam. I'm in like my basement at this point, just sort of having a top light down on me, but anything can really be improved. I could have a better webcam, better lighting on either side of me, so that way everything is sort of evenly lit. An actual green screen could be behind me, so that way I can actually have much better compositing than this. It's one of those things where usually it mostly comes down to technology at this point. I believe you carry yourself fairly well. It's like if I do have to be brutally honest, and it's like there is obviously the slight speech impediment, but that can always be worked on with like a vocal coach, and also doing vocal warm-ups usually 10 to 15 minutes before doing the actual interview itself. Usually most singers and people who are in choral stuff like choir, we would do multiple vocal warm-ups in order to make sure that we're enunciating correctly.
Yeah, and I think that was really well put. I think that it was beforehand. I think just maybe possibly checking in the some of the background beforehand, so that the guests aren't doing it right immediately is a possible improvement. And also, what I do like about you is your speech volume is great, and you're also really vulnerable, extremely vulnerable and honest. So that is something that I like.
No, I appreciate that. For me, I'm not kissing your asses or anything. It is uncensored. Freedom of speech, self-expression. I have no cards up my sleeves. This is not a mask. A lot of people say you have to have a gimmick. What is your gimmick? You have to sell yourself. I know people who are writers. I know people who are professional wrestlers. It's okay. Hey, that's their gimmick. For the longest time, I used my disability as a crutch, but I'm like, maybe I can use it as a gimmick in saying, hey, this is who I am. I may learn as, hey, you guys went to college, you have bachelors and BAs and whatever. I couldn't do that. But look at what I created myself. I have like this little index card. This card is an example of my education. I don't have a high school diploma. My brother made a joke about the degree I got. It was called an IEP. Mm-hmm. And what it is, it's fine if you want to go work on cars or refrigerators or go to a trade school, but you're never going to go to a 4-year school or a almost said year, a year university. Thank you. I kind of just spurted it out. But the joke about the IEP diploma is inefficient progress of education. Mm-hmm. Well, what that means is you can pretty much wipe your ass with it. So I'm going to show you, hey, I may learn and read at a 5th grade high school level. I'm not good at pronouncing people's names. I may have a speech impairment, but that's because I'm hard on myself because I try to be perfect. But when you try to be perfect, you're going to make mistakes, and you enter the show instead of hiding it. I want my disability to show more, saying, "Hey, look at what he's doing." But this is not about me. This is not a pity thing. I'm not asking for pity. All I'm asking is for an opportunity. Say, give someone a chance, like you guys. I came to you and say, I would like to have both of you on the show. You didn't know me for a hole in the wall, but you accepted the honor and the privilege that I gave to you. Say, I'm giving you an opportunity to be on my upcoming podcast, and you're making a new friend out of it. So what's that?
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I have a lot of thoughts around that. I mean, one of the scripts that I was working on that I kind of put aside because I'm working on something else took over. But one of the scripts I'm working on was because it was basically an autobiography where I found myself, I didn't want to be a waitress anymore. And I started to teach English, but I was in a private school. And so when I was on the writing on the board, and I had ironically, I'm pretty sure one of my students had OCD, and I had a history class that I had to do. And after half an hour writing on the board, I had spelt a couple things incorrectly. And so there's all this anxiety around that. And so I started to write what that was like for an artist as well. And that there's a lot of status around spelling, specifically spelling. There's other status about, we have a status around pronunciation of words, whether and also status around English. Do you have an accent or not? And even though we love certain accents, there are some that if you can't pronounce it properly, people will get underpaid for many reasons. And this has been always the case. And I had a really fantastic, during COVID, I decided to take a linguistics course, which was amazing. And I had a wonderful professor from University of Alberta, and Rachel McGrath. And we had a good discussion about the power of spelling, and that she, as a professor, even if she spelled something wrong, her other as a linguistic, because language changes, sounds change, it's all moving. But so she talks about how her mission is to take away some of the, I guess like the discriminatory things around that. So yeah, for sure, it's good for you for being an example for everyone. Yeah. Absolutely.
No, I agree. Now we're gonna do something fun because I did mention this in the beginning, and a part of my show is to bring people together. So, Matt, do you have any questions for our guests for Box 1 and Box 1? The reason I call you Box 1 is because I don't want to butcher your name. No disrespect. No disrespect at all. That's why I keep referring to you as the Box 1. It's like, I know it's, I hear a name or a voice, I know the name, but if I say it, I'm going to be butcher. I'm done tiring to embarrass myself. So, Box 2, do you have any questions for Box 1? And Box 1, do you have any questions for Box 2? Because
hi, both of you,
yeah, hi.
Both of you are directors.
Where are you? What city are you in?
Well, right now, currently, I am in Okemos, Michigan, but I'm planning actually to next year move down to Atlanta, which is essentially the East Coast equivalent to Hollywood right now. And as far as directing, mostly all I've done so far is short films in terms of me being a director. But it's like I do have aspirations to direct my own features eventually, someday, hopefully. Please, someone give me a job.
Yeah, I totally get it. Well, I'm in Toronto, and so, although everyone wants to say Toronto, I'm born and raised. I lived in New York for 3 years. I took a 2-year program there. I was almost like a master's in acting. And then I worked a little bit on Broadway. And then I came back really sad because I had some hopes and dreams. with the States, but plugging away and doing my own thing. So I make films and I direct theater. Mainly, it wasn't the first go-to. It was just to try to just keep working. And I mean, my main goal is to like, ironically, the directing, the producing is coming up, and I love it. But I ultimately see myself as an actress. So that's been so. But people keep hiring me and keep giving me stories, and I'm open to it. I love it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, for me, it's like, currently with most of the stuff that I've done is I've mostly been working with a filmmaker by the name of John Colvert.
Mm-hmm.
He lives down in Atlanta, and I've done 2 feature films with him so far. It's like I've done the posters for his films, I've done the trailers, I've done certain visual effects shots, and with the Raker House, I came on as a co-producer and doing multiple other things on the production. Mostly just here in Michigan, because he's down there, and I'm just like, I don't have money, I can't travel. And right now, I'm actually currently writing a script. Well, I'm writing a story treatment, and John is going to hopefully write the script for a horror comedy film that I'm wanting to direct. And the title that I've chosen for it is Suburban Dracula.
Oh, amazing.
And it's set in the modern day. Dracula has woken up from a hundreds-plus year nap, and he has decided to come over to what is modern America. And just like anyone in the modern world, he struggles just like everyone else financially, just everything. We are going to put this version of Dracula through the ringer, and on top of that, this vampire hunter in training is chasing the hell after him.
That's awesome.
So hopefully, we can put something together with that, and I would be so excited to actually sink my teeth into that and get to direct it.
Great, sink your teeth. How long did it take you to write it?
Well, I'm currently writing the story outline, and it's probably only going to be like 2-3 pages. Just going over the basic outline of what the plot is and certain characters I'm wanting to include in it, and then I'm going to send that off to John. And however long it takes him to write it, it'll take him that long.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on something right now that's kind of taken over. It's a one-person show about Amelia Earhart, and yeah, it's what's shocking is I spent 2 months researching her, and she's kind of in this place in, I guess, the zeitgeist. She keeps kind of coming up for me. And I've watched maybe about 7 different documentaries, possibly 10 different movies. I've read 3 different plays, and she has 2 books out, and I've read her poetry. And I think that ultimately her story was always focused on the last part. And there's this whole other story about work inequality and gender equality that was a little bit missed. And so that's what I'm building right now.
Yeah, obviously she was, the first woman who flew over the Atlantic. She was the first woman who flew around the world. And, most people focus on the end of her story when she just disappeared. And then ultimately, pretty much what happened was, her body was eaten by crabs. But, it's like most people forget, it's like she's one of the most historically significant women in not only just aviation, but history in general.
So she at one point, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to bring up a point, about 2 points. But if she's dead, how's she writing books?
Oh, she wrote 2 books. One was for the fun of it. I forgot what the second one was. I think it was The Last Flight. It was for the fun of it was 1932, and she was actually she passed in like 1939. She was an editor for Vogue magazine. She was a professor at Purdue University, She was a social worker and at one point a nurse up in Toronto at the Spadina Hospital during the World War I believe. So worked for her during a time when women didn't work, and I don't want to focus it on just women. It's more of like anyone, but she did a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And it's funny you should mention, not to interrupt, but I know we're going to go
we're having a fun here.
But to count down to count us down, but I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in. You mentioned you're writing a book about Dracula. I heard on the radio.
It's a screenplay. It's a screenplay.
Well, screenplay. But I heard of that they're now doing a gay Dracula. And I just want to know how you feel about that.
I mean, Dracula himself is one of those characters that has multiple different interpretations throughout the years. Obviously, the most common one is the more sort of heterosexual version that we have in, the more conservative times of like Bram Stoker's era and the 1931 film and stuff like that. But Dracula himself, he's a public domain character. You can pretty much do whatever the hell you want with him. I mean, I'm taking him and putting him in bum-shart, middle of nowhere America, and it's like in something like the recent BBC miniseries back in like 2017. They made him explicitly a bisexual character.
Well,
I think I heard that. Yeah.
That's true. Well, my show is PG, so I keep my 2 cents to myself on that one. But I do have a couple questions for you guys off the air, but Zoom is counting us down. I do have a couple questions off the air, as I mentioned. But as we wrap up, what is coming up on the horizon in your box one? How can people follow you on social media? Where are you heading to next?
Wow, thank you so much. So you can follow me on my Facebook page, which will lead you to the Earhart page. So I'm building a fan base because eventually I'll be putting a show, my first show, probably this next summer, and then working to put up a much bigger show. I have pretty big dreams for that. Yeah, but you can follow me on mainly on my Instagram, which is Irena Huljak, one word, and my Facebook page, Irena Huljak. Thanks.
And box 2?
You can follow me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Chef Matt Reviews. The link for that, I believe, will probably be in the description for you. And you can also follow me on Facebook. It's like I used to have Twitter, but now I don't because I just generally don't like it. There are other links to like IMDb and stuff like that so that people can follow the progress I'm doing. I'm currently in the process of pre-production on another film that I'm doing with John Covert. He's currently searching for funding for a new film called 12 Days Before Autumn. And it is a dramatic sort of horror film based on a bunch of teens who ingest a copious amount of drugs after they're playing hooky from school on September 11th, 2001.
Awesome.
So the story experiences their perspective, their drug-fueled, horrible perspective for when 9/11 happens. I can't wait for it.
No, it sounds really interesting. And for those Dracula fans, don't worry. Just from my sense out there, if you're Dracula fans, make sure if he's following you, don't let him walk behind you. You mentioned sucking blood, but now he's probably sucking something else. But it's just not that type of show. But with that being said, it was a real honor and privilege